And at the end of the day, persistence. I tell people that if you are persistent, it just drips off of you. People can tell that. I could tell you no, and you'll go, okay, well, I'll talk to you next week. It's like you heard no, but you just really heard not right now.
Welcome to the Money and Flow podcast, where avocado toast and stocks meet. Did you know that women and women of color don't talk that much about money? And did you also know that the health and wellness community is a $600 billion business? And did you also know that women aren't in the forefront when it comes to decision making with our health and wealth? We're here to change that. This is the first podcast that focuses on wellness and money. This podcast is targeted for women and women of color, specifically in their 20s and 30s. And without further ado, your host, Shante George. Hey, welcome to the Money and Flow podcast. I'm your host, Shante George, your certified financial educator. Super happy to be here. Super happy that you're here. Today, we're going to talk about a couple of things. First, 2019 is a year to set intentions. For most of us, we've been saying, oh, yes, I want to do this. I want to start this business. I want to write a book, all these different amazing things. But the problem is we said out loud what we want, but we haven't set the intentions in terms of what are the steps that I need to do? Like, who do I need to talk to? Look no further. Today, we have Dr. Shante Williams, who is a powerhouse for women of color, for women. She's one of the few venture capitalists that I know that's a woman. She also has RW Capital funding. She's amazing. We talked about everything between investing to being a woman in STEM to food deserts, all types of fun stuff. And then also Whole30 and fried chicken. So, we're out here trying to have a lot of fun, also trying to learn a lot of information. Before we get into that interview, there were a couple of notes that I want to point out. One, my book, Not Your Average White Guy's Money Book, is coming out. So I'm excited about that. I'll make sure I put more details in. Secondly, if you are in the podcast world, please like, subscribe. We love to get emails. We also love to see reviews. I'm super happy that there has been an expansion with the podcast, as well as writing a book and making sure that we get down to the dirty business of money and wellness and what that means and how to be fully healthy as a woman of color, how to actually build wealth. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that within the next couple of episodes. So yeah, take a listen. Super happy that you're here. We're going to jump into our money mindful tip, which is how to have a money date, the ins and outs. Hey, so today we're our mindful moneyness tip. We're going to talk about what is a money date, what are the different types of money dates, how to have a money date with your significant other, and then also how to make it a habit. Lastly, who's your financial BFF? So in a nutshell, a money date is setting time out weekly to look at your money, look at your finances, see where you're at, feel good about your finances, look at some ways to improve it. That is a basic form of a money date. There are many different types of money dates. Some folks think it's just always looking at numbers, making sure you're looking at your cash flow. That's not the case. There are multiple different ways that you can set and do a money date. One of the things that I like to do, which is kind of also the title of the podcast, is Money and Flow, which means that one goes and does yoga, and then right after they do yoga, they look at their budget, because you're less likely to be stressed out when you're blissed out, right? The other way is dreaming, just, going down your favorite street, dreaming of living there. that is a part of your money date. Yes, do we want you to look at your overall finances? Yes. However, there are multiple different kinds, so it doesn't have to be this set one and done. And I think a lot of folks, they get turned off by money dates just because of that. Third, how to have a money date with your significant other. The thing about money dates with your significant other is at the end of the day, you love this person and you care about him. So yes, will there be arguments? Yes. Will there be a little bit pain? Yeah. Will there be, maybe you'll be upset with that person for a long time? Yes. I don't normally talk about my personal life, but my partner and I, we often have money dates, and a lot of times they can be incredibly stressful. Even when we're working with a financial planner, it is a hot mess. One, because he and I are very different people, very, very different people. Clearly, I sound a lot more analytical. He is more visceral. He is more cerebral. He majored in, he majored in poetry or English. Very, very different from myself. However, we do have the same values. So anytime we get frustrated, we always go back to those values. Now, most of y'all are probably thinking, wait, you have all these money dates. How did you even start having these conversations? Well, I started having these conversations some time ago. So that's probably why we've been together for 3 years. So we started year 0. So that's a little bit different from a lot of folks. What I want you to do is ask your partner what is their love language, and you can kind of go from there. My partner's love language is touch. Mine is words of affirmation. So I always make sure that we go to the gym or do something that's active first to let him know that I care about him and I want to make sure that his needs are met and my needs are met. So we do something fun first, and then we have the date. So kind of planning that, started slow. I mean, it might be one money date, and then the next thing you know, you won't talk about money for 6 months. That's okay. You just want to start getting these ideas in motion. Fourth, how to make it a habit. I mean, you got to set it on your Google Calendar. You have to set it on everything. Sometimes, personally, I don't even like doing the money dates all the time, but I see it on my calendar. So by the end of the week, it has to get done. Typically, I do mine on Wednesdays. That's when it's the middle of the week, so I can kind of think about the weekend and what I'm doing. You can make it whatever day, time you want, but kind of set that in motion. Lastly, financial BFFs. At the end of the day, DIYing your finances is the bomb. Like, I 100% agree with it. It's how I paid off my undergraduate student loans. I am a fan of personal finance. However, at the end of the day, you do need to ask someone who is someone that is certified to help you with your money. Okay. So, welcome to the Money and Flow podcast, Dr. Shante.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We'd like to ask all of our interviewees or guests, we like to ask them, what is your money story?
What is my money story? So my money story takes a really long and windy road. I went from being a scientist, really somebody who is halfway between the clinic and halfway between the academic bench and saying, I'm going to make a difference in people's lives, to thinking, you know what, somebody benefits from all of this work that all of these really brilliant people are doing. Let me check into that. And so I went from, being a full-on researcher, developing drugs for brain tumors, and took this really hard turn into commercialization. And I used to sit between an accountant and a lawyer, and the two of them taught me their trade. And so I moved from being a scientist to kind of this hybrid legal accounting person. And I said, okay, well, what am I going to do now? So I jumped out into management consulting and mergers and acquisitions. And I thought, I can do this, as the only person in all male investment firms who knew any of the science, any of the technology, and started closing deals. And, in biotech and pharma, those deals are huge. It's nothing to close a deal for $800 million. And, as a consultant, you get a little piece of that. But my money story really started when I thought I did the work and I only get the little piece. I want the bigger piece. And so I started saying, I want a bigger piece of that pie. And so I had taken these intentional steps to go from consultant to director to head of intellectual property for an international company, to jumping out and saying, you know what, I'm just going to go the whole VC route, start my own VC and due diligence firm, and really do it for myself. And so now I don't have to take the little piece of the pie. I get to take the big piece of the pie.
Yeah, that's
my money story quickly.
Yeah, that's a good money story to have. That's great. I'm glad. I hope every listener really listens. I need the bigger piece of the pie. I wish that was a mantra for folks. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to your money story, when it comes to women, when it particularly comes to women of color, we do have to ask ourselves, like, how much are we worth? And not only that, but how can we push ourselves to aim higher? So I absolutely love that. And you have a very unique scenario where you're managing or you own. Well, first of all, you have a very unique story because you've been in STEM and bio, which is very heavily male dominated. What's the difference between the science guys and the business guys? I'm curious about that.
Well, what's the difference? Actually, I think they're the same people. Quite frankly, both tend to know they know everything about everything all the time, even when they're wrong. I will say the difference is the money guys tend to not hold on to their beliefs as hard, I think, as the science guys. So at some point when you start making money, or you start showing that economic value, the business guys, they still may, give you a little side eye, but they go, you know what? She's on the team now, she's making the money. So I always think, the business guys get the edge at the end of the day, because when you're a capitalist, when you are money motivated, you start to look at those differences less and less as soon as that money picture changes. And so I love my science geeks. I love those guys, but those guys will fight you to the death because they're in it for a different reason. Their passion or their theories, their hypotheses really carry the day, while, the banking guys are just like, you know what? I'm here to make money. So if you're here to help me do that, once you've proven yourself, you have to keep proving yourself, but they tend to go, okay, she knows what she's doing. As long as you're not losing the money. I'll say that out loud.
No, yeah, I would say that is completely accurate. In terms of I'm still in the fintech space, and the tech guys are more so, I did this, I built, when I built my first PC from the ground up when I was 18. So there's a lot more of this is mine type thing. Whereas a lot of times, and I just had an interview with someone who is a computer scientist, and she said the same thing. But at the end of the day, if you know your stuff, you know your stuff. So they can't, and that's something that I think a lot of women should recognize and acknowledge. Like at the end of the day, facts are facts, and you can know your stuff. So right.
I think you've got to own it, right? I tell people that, I've heard people all the time kick around the imposter syndrome, or, do I really belong here? I think whether it's science, tech, or, banking or finance, people can smell that, kind of blood in the water. So, you've got to own what you know and know what you own, is what I always tell younger people coming up is, whatever your domain of expertise is, own it, and don't be afraid to own it. Don't be afraid to tell people, I know this. At the end of the day, you've got to be confident. If you're not, really moving and operating in what you're comfortable in and what you know, and growing in that vein, and you're a little shy, people will pounce on you. So you just gotta, put up. I like to tell people, I know what I know. I'm not afraid to tell you what I don't know, and I'm not afraid to learn more. So, you know, I tell people, again, my favorite Bible verse is, "Triest me not." So I know what I'm doing. You know, I know what I know. Don't try it. You know?
Right. Yeah, that's great. No, I mean, I would say that's 100% accurate at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, it's like, yes, you know what you know, but you think every guy knows everything? No, it's the
No.
act of being, you can do the same exact thing and do it in your own way that reflects who you are. So that's awesome. So you own a company, RW Capital Partners. This is like for real. This is like game changing investment, private equity. Can you tell the audience about that?
So I like to say RW Capital is my baby, and it's as diverse as my background really is. So RW Capital is investment due diligence and a venture capital firm. So what does that mean at the end of the day? I tell people on the investment due diligence side, I either put partnerships together, so I give you a great business marriage, and I give you all of the workup so that it'll work, you know, for years to come. And if you didn't use me for the marriage, then I give you a great business divorce, and I end up dividing the assets up and going through all of those agreements and making sure that when partnerships fail, for whatever reason they fail, you know, you are well protected going forward with the asset or the business. And then on the investment side, you know, I have a core and a baby in biotech and pharma still get to do a lot of medical device work of advising hospitals, physicians, new tech startups in that space. We have commercial real estate investment, which is a whole other beast. But again, you know, that same vein of people who really have capital, they come to me and say, "Is this a good deal?" And if I say yes, then they say, "Great, can you help me execute on it?" And so I get to help people not only see good deals, present them with opportunities, but deploy their capital over and over and over again. And because we have such a diverse set of skill sets between my team, and I have 2 other partners and 7 other people that work on the team at this point, as analysts and experts, that we are, you know, there's very few things that I'll say, no, we don't do that. So RW Capital is a fun baby. I think in the next few years, we'll be able to really, you know, do a deeper dive into some things that we really want to do around growing the acumen of the everyday investor and the everyday founder, so that, you know, they find their own matches. My favorite thing to do is being a matchmaker in RW. So I don't have to give you that business divorce. I want the investors to really understand themselves and what they want to be involved in. And I want the founders to say, you know what, I'm not going to take any money, you know, because I'm desperate, but I'm going to take the smart money so that I know that this person giving me their capital, I can take care of it and I can grow and I can use it to get to my next step. So that's the next phase. That's what 2019 and beyond really is for RW Capital.
Yeah, that's for real. That's awesome. Do you know the statistic of how many women are venture capitalists?
I will tell you this. I don't know the statistic off the top of my head as actual principals and firms, but there are very few.
Okay.
And I say that in a city that is majority banking. So in Charlotte, you know, we've got a lot of firms. We've got a lot of private equity firms. And everybody goes, "Oh, you're the lady that owns the VC firm," because I'm a woman and I'm a Black woman doing it. And so we just don't have a lot of people in that space. And so I've been fortunate to meet a few others. I think I've met maybe 4 or 5 across the country.
Right.
That are principals and not analysts.
Is it? Yeah. Yeah. Then that's actually, could you explain to folks the difference between the principal and an analyst? Because I mean, we're getting some high level stuff right now.
You know, I tell people the analyst is the person that's doing the workup. They probably are the person that's doing the seeding that you might see, or the sourcing. I'm sorry, when they're moving out and looking for particular opportunities. and looking for the people that you meet at conferences. So they do the workup, they do the background work, they do the things that are underneath to say, this is a good deal. The principal at the end of the day cuts the check. That's the person you got to get to. That's the person that you really need to have say, you know what, I think that's a great idea. So a good analyst principal relationship will say, you know, I trust my analysts and they know my personality. So when you're talking to analysts, always know that they're your biggest advocate. When you talk to the principal, know that it's their money. You know, it's their money to write the check for. And at the end of the day, you've got to build that rapport with them as well. So principals make the decisions. Because when my investors come back to me and they're looking for their returns, I can't blame the analyst. I can't say, well, you know, she brought me this thing and it's just not working. Like, no, I'm the one that's holding the bag, or who is responsible for the returns and gains for the firm. So principals are the decision makers, and it's fun and scary sometimes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you make the decisions and you have to trust your team to make sure that everybody's doing what they need, which is amazing. So before we actually recorded, we talked a little bit about food deserts, which I am actually very curious about. And for some of the audience that doesn't know food desert is when sometimes there isn't a grocery store. If there is a grocery store, they don't have healthy products. And I know that personally, there were a lot of people that I grew up around, and they basically lived in an area that had a food desert, and there wasn't any like fresh food, and that ultimately, it's so funny that she talked about bio and that's like your life path. My senior project in high school, this is crazy, I was so angry because I was like, wow, there sure is some racial disparity in healthcare. I just didn't know how to articulate it when I was that young. I just was like, you know, there are lots of folks that are disadvantaged that don't have the opportunity to get food or the proper health care. And that, I mean, clearly that's a huge issue, but the long-term effects mean healthcare costs are more expensive. Just like the longevity of you living, diabetes, like pretty much a lot of things are exacerbated, and particularly when it comes to women of color. I do have one question. How did you get into learning and talking about food deserts?
Well, you know, again, you articulated it beautifully. So there's this intimate connection between health, food, and then wealth. So I call that kind of the triangle that I'm operating in always. So, you know, we know that the food we put into our bodies can, you know, be helpful and, you know, be antioxidants and really give us life. And the food that we put in our bodies can also lead to, you know, things like cancer. And then we also know that if you're sick, you're not working, whether that's for yourself or for someone else. And so I got into this triangle where I did cancer research, and, you know, brain tumors are, you know, a whole different beast. But, you know, as you see research trickling down, this causes cancer, this causes cancer, you start to realize that the amount of unhealthy things that we consume for convenience is just crazy, crazy high. And in areas that are socioeconomically depressed, there's always that food insecurity issue. And it was a snowball effect. It was eye-opening to me. So I'm originally from Charlotte, North Carolina. And I grew up in an area that, you know, my parents ended up being able to, you know, buy their first home, you know, when I was very young, and we had cars so we could get to the grocery store, except not everybody that I went to school with had that same opportunity. And so there's a area of Charlotte on the west side. It's, at one time it was where wealthier Black people lived, and that area experienced a decline. And for 40 years, literally 40 years, they've been asking and trying to lobby the city, the county, you know, private investors, grocery stores, can you come in? We need a grocery store. And the answer was always no. And why was the answer no? Because the profits were too low. And in my head, I'm thinking, not that you won't make a profit, just you won't make enough profit, which just burns my buns, we'll just say, so that I said, you don't have to bleep me. But for me, it's definitely a situation where I started thinking and looking at those statistics. And again, in that triangle, it started becoming very, very, very clear to me that if you put a store into a community in which people have the access to fresh produce, where people are able to, kind of prepare home meals, and they know where their food is coming from, they don't have to rely on the convenience store types of things. You see reductions in all kinds of things, heart disease, diabetes. People are living longer. Children have better dental health. All of these things just tumble around the fact that if someone is willing to put, a 10,000 square foot store into an area, it doesn't even necessarily have to be all organic products or anything like that, but literally things that, what it is, it's not coming in a bar in a package. And so I've been tumbling around this. There's so many people in this city doing tremendous work, strictly in that area. So, as a person that still loves, my medical friends, and someone who is, I'm a self-avowed capitalist at this point. And so, there's no reason why we can't marry capitalism to food in a real way and use that food to propel our wealth into the future. And so that's how I got in. I am a proud board member of the Three Sisters Co-op that we'll be bringing to that food insecure area that, no longer will we be waiting 40 years or, 40 more months. We said, we'll do it ourselves. We'll pull it in and we'll get it done. And I told someone in the city government, I said, my dream for that market is not that, we are just, providing healthy food, but I'd love to see a big box store actually looking at our market, trying to acquire us. That's the dream. And the dream isn't that they come in and give us a bunch of money, but it's literally the ability for us to say, no, thank you. We're going to keep our market. We like our market the way it is, and really attracting that attention, but saying, no, we're good. So that's my dream. So that's what we're fighting for down on the West Side.
That one, I appreciate, Dr. Shante, your ability to think further than what is in the now, because I think lots of folks can get stagnant of, I don't actually have this money, or what should we do? And especially when it comes to our food and our health. But if women are not asking, how are we going to make this money? How are we going to build businesses? How are we going to actually make this change? Then you won't see things like this, like what you guys are doing. Like that. At the end of the day, that really is what matters. You need to have women or, lots of people of color, whoever's in that neighborhood, to make money, or have someone that can relate to that the population that lives there. And that will make a huge change. So where I live in Philadelphia, it's like, so Philadelphia is like North Philly, South Philly, West Philly, and then Northeast Philly, parts of Northeast Philly. That's where like the opioid addiction is. I think we're the capital now, because first I think a lot of people from New Jersey moved to Philly. I don't know what happened, but there used to be Jersey, now it's Philly. And then where I live in West Philly, West Philly, parts of it, a huge chunk of it is a lot of just working class Black folks. Like that's the neighborhood. And they just redid the store there, I think like a year or two ago. And let me tell you, when they redid that grocery store, it looks like the quality of life improved. You don't have to, people are still buying packaged stuff, but at the end of the day, when I go to the grocery store that is the closest to me, that grocery store, I know that I can buy fresh food. I know that everything that is there is really important. And this is something interesting too. When I lived in a food desert for 2 years because I was doing Teach for America, and I did it in rural Mississippi, and literally that whole state is a desert, like a food desert for the most part, unless you live on the coast. It is, when you have the 1 or 2 towns that had the grocery stores like that, their lifestyles, their livelihoods, like crime was down. It's crazy. It is crazy how food affects you. And it's really hard for me to say that because I just finished Whole30 and now I'm eating fried chicken. So I feel, part of me feels bad.
Look.
I went
hey, you can eat fried chicken. I have no problem with the fried chicken.
Yeah, I went from not eating sugar, breads, to eating bread, sugar, and chicken. But you know what? You got to do it. I'm only going to do it once because, yeah. Anyways.
Well, I'll make you feel better about this. I probably have my cheat meal is fried chicken and mac and cheese always.
Oh,
and I usually sneak it in probably every 10 days. Don't tell anybody else that. That's just our secret. But
yeah, okay,
I love it, and I like that.
Oh my gosh, because the trick is the seasoning. See,
oh my gosh,
with fried chicken, with fried chicken, the truth is in the seasoning. If you cannot season, it doesn't matter where you live. If you can't season it and don't understand the quality and essence of seasoning, then the chicken is worthless. And this chicken is very good. Okay.
Yeah, it can look pretty, but it's got to have that little kick in the batter. Now, I did learn this. This is my non-healthy health tip is apparently if you fry it in peanut oil, it makes it crispier. So if you're a really crispy, crunchy, battery person like I am, then yes, peanut oil will do it for you. And I was just like, oh, who came up with this? I don't know, but thanks for inventing it because I was in heaven a couple of weeks ago.
I mean, I'm on board as long as it's like, unless you got a peanut allergy, as long as that, I might try that. But yeah, I couldn't tell you. I mean, this is clearly a side note, but yeah, I couldn't tell you the last time I've had fried chicken. Which, no, I can. I went to New Orleans last year and I had fried chicken. That's really sad, but whatever.
What? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a fried chicken person. I'm very much so, like you're from the Carolinas. I'm very much so the barbecue. The art of the grill is the barbecuing, the actual barbecuing. That's the best part about the Carolinas. That's the best part about Texas. It's the best part about Memphis. Literally, I live for the barbecue. So that's why I'm not really a fried chicken person. But anywho.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, so this is going to be great on this podcast because, I feel like for so long, especially on this podcast, it's been very like, okay, how'd you get this business? How'd you start it? So at least we're getting a little bit on the real side. So, so what do you, when you're looking for a perfect person to be with RW Capital, what are you looking for? Like, what is it about certain companies that really capture you? And what makes you really want to build their company to be robust?
I always tell people, like, I can never define it. I always love the quote, I don't know, it's from Captain Hepburn. It says, I don't know what it is, but I know I've got it. And it's that you just, like, it's the fire in the belly. There's more than just, I got a great idea. When I'm speaking to someone and I have seen them kind of step through and I can see the vision, no matter whether their vision is, $100 billion or just $1 million, when I see that fire in the belly, that real zeal to know what they're talking about, to really own their space, not just, I got a great idea, everybody will want it. And, kind of just there's a different aura about a founder that is passionate and that is in it for the long haul. And that's what I'd like to see, you know. So a lot of people come to a capital firm for money, and it's because they have an immediate need for money. I need to hire somebody. I need to do this thing, what will enable me to do. And they start painting that picture. And the more that I can see that picture, you know, just going down the line, that's when when my wheels start to turn. So I don't take notes in general. Like I'm an interactive listener, and so I don't need to take notes. And so when I have to walk out of a meeting and immediately sit down or type or, you know, talk into a voice recorder because I've got all of these things churning because they've said so many wonderful things, that's when I know, okay, we'll figure out how to do this. We'll figure out how to get them the capital that they want. And what I have found over time is that package never looks the same. So it's not just the person that comes with 160 slides ready to go. It's not just the person that, you know, is a repeat founder. It's a combination of preparedness, aspiration, vision, and at the end of the day, persistence. I tell people that if you are persistent, it just drips off of you. People can tell that. I could tell you no, and you'll go, okay, well, I'll talk to you next week. You know, it's like you heard no, but you just really heard not right now. And
Yes.
that's what I am always looking for.
Yes.
Those are the companies that we pull them into the portfolio and we hold on to them because we know, you know, we're going to hold these things for, you know, 5, 7, 10 years in order to get that return. And so we need people that aren't going to be selling, you know, lemonade next week or, you know, whatever the new trendiest thing is. And so it's just that, you know, not right now. Okay, well, let me show you what I've done in the interim. One of my favorite companies that I've gotten to do work with, I met him 2 years prior, and he took my car, but he says, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to call you yet because I don't really think I can talk to you. And I kind of took offense. I was like, what the heck does that mean? And I didn't hear from him at all for 16 months. And then he gave me a phone call and he sent me a presentation. And we walked through it. And I said, you know, this really is not our juice. It's not in our wheelhouse. I like where you're going, but, you know, just I can't see it yet. So, you know, we're going to have to pass. And he said, okay, I'll talk to you in a few more months. And then another 9 months or so go by, and he comes back and says, I just want to give you my presentation and show you what I've done. And he had done all kinds of things. I mean, he had raised his seed capital. He had already put together, you know, a pitch. He'd done pitch competitions. He had videos. He had a proof of concept. And it's like, those are the people that you go, you know what? Not that I am so important in the process that, you know, anybody should be, you know, devastated if I say no, but this guy literally heard not right now and kept pushing. He didn't get discouraged. And I have to imagine that I wasn't his only no. And I said, well, where'd you get your first $100,000 from? He said, I took on an extra job and I borrowed some money from my mom. And I was just like, whoa, that's the fire in the belly. That's the persistence that we always like to see. So now we get to work with him. And he's rocking and rolling in Alabama, and we're really excited about him. So
yeah, I absolutely love that. And just to point out the thing with being persistent, like you said earlier, no means not yet. I literally just said that yesterday because people don't understand that if a door is closed, it still can reopen. Like for some reason, I think a lot of folks, and this is coming from a person, like we all experience failures at least weekly, you know what I mean? I just, right? Like I just switched from doing like tech, like education stuff to going into finance. And literally every day when I'm like doing equations or trying to come up with an idea when it comes to like, what should it look like? What should finance look like in the long term? You always fall on your face. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to achieve it. It's just not yet, not right now. You know, that reminds me of my relatives used to say, but yet, you know, all that it is true and true. It is so, it's accurate because, and you may, whoever is listening may be feeling the same way. Like, you know, I just tried this. I tried this business. It didn't work. I'm going to do another business. All of those business failures make you the business owner that you're supposed to be. Even when you're dealing with kids, you're not like the perfect most folks aren't the best parents. You learn after you realize, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have left my child for that long in the car. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have done. It's not, you don't
Hmm.
just come out the gate with being a great parent. It's about putting in the trial and error and trying to make it work. So, yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
that's spot on. I tell people on both sides of that coin, don't take your failures too seriously. Don't take your successes too seriously. I always find that the cockiest people that I don't want to work with are people who had even a little bit of success, because
Mm,
that success becomes the thing that they're like, look, I already did this. Great. Why are you talking to me then? And so it's there's this balance. Like, you should always celebrate your successes, but at some point, now they're in the rearview mirror, and if you're going to grow that success, you can't anchor yourself to it. And so it's, don't take either side too seriously. Don't get too low on a no or a failure, and really don't get too high on a success, because we all know that something else will come along, especially if you're in tech or in business, and somebody will say, oh, that was a great idea, and they put a little extra spice on top of it, and then you're not the top of the heap anymore. And
right.
so, you got to keep the balance. And so,
Mhm.
learning how to learn from either side of it is really what I strive to do just in my own business. I like to tell people, yeah, I own an investment firm, and my first tech company was a complete flop. I mean, like, out the gate, and just like a lead balloon, like, blah, no, it failed.
I mean,
And
that's, yeah.
it hurt. Like, I still listed, but I was like, you know what? This thing was stinky. I mean, it
Mhm.
was bad. And that to me always keeps me a little humble. So if one day I make $100 quadrillion, I'll still have to look at that big lead balloon kind of sitting at the bottom of my resume, like, yeah, what happened to that company? Yeah, okay. So, it happens to everybody. And even
Yeah.
people who feel like they have a gut feeling on business or what makes money still fail.
Oh, definitely. I mean, and I would say, I mean, today I've talked to two now really successful women of color that are really looking at the world in a very different view. Both of you guys are saying the same things. Like, understand that they're failures, literally
Mm-hmm.
move past that, and keep moving. And I mean, this is kind of like a perfect segue for one of the last questions. Um, you belong with the Black Chambers of Commerce, and it, you cannot grow without a community. So, can you talk a little
Mm-hmm.
bit about how the chambers really kind of fostered your networking and your relationships with people in your community?
Yeah, I am very fortunate to act as chairman of the Black Chamber here in Charlotte. And what that did for me, I came in not as chairman, of course. I came in as a volunteer. And I came in having just relocated my business back to Charlotte. And frankly, I had a new business at a new firm, and I was literally saying, how in the heck am I going to navigate? I don't know that many people here. And I'm from Charlotte, but my family doesn't own businesses. We aren't in banking or in finance. And so I went to the chamber, I reached out to someone, and they just embraced it and said, okay, great. So I took on, kind of the networking event circuit. So um, that community of people where you honed your pitch, right? So you talk to people, you go to these networking events, and instead of just shoving your card down people's throat, I started getting much, much better about saying what it is that I do or what am I passionate about. And after a while, people started going, oh, yeah, you're the doc, right? Or, oh, yeah, you're the VC firm. And that, just that constant, not only reinforcement of encouragement. So, some people went, I have no idea what you do. I don't know what you're talking about. But hey, I'm with you. I'm a champion for you. I will support you. I'm encouraging you. On the other side of it, they said, I'm not sure if this is in your wheelhouse, but I know this guy who does this. And I like to tell people the chamber itself should act as a hub and a network. So in order for you to be a successful member of any chamber of commerce, you have to actually show up and talk to people, because somebody will know somebody that will point you in the right direction. So, and that's what continued to happen to me. So somebody would remember either my story or my name or the company name, and they'd say, you should go talk to this person, or you should go talk to this person. And before I knew it, I had people kind of coming up to me when I'm in random places saying, hey, I was just talking to my colleague and he said that I really should talk to you about investing, or I should talk to you about, you know, my startup or this idea I've got. And so that just continued to snowball. And so, you know, for me now, I see the chamber as, it's a member organization, of course, but it's a master networking class. Because some people will be, you know, looking to get business for themselves, and some people will want businesses from you. But at the end of the day, the only way either side of that equation works is if you're both leveraging all the other people you know to connect. And so we've been able to really get that word out down here in Charlotte. In my business, after the first year of being in the Black Chamber here, business picked up by 35%. And I was getting new calls in, new clients in. And to this day, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, I hope you don't talk to a marketing person today or someone in the marketing space, but we have never advertised our business or our services, and year over year, we've doubled. And that's because we have done the groundwork. We are building those relationships with people in local government and chamber of commerce. And we have several affiliate chambers here in Charlotte, but that has been how I grew my business. That's how I benefited. And now as chairman, I'm making sure that I am pulling in younger members, younger entrepreneurs, even business professionals that may not want to own their business and say, hey, but I want to be VP or director of this firm. Great. I know somebody that's already a director. You should connect and talk to them. And so I get the opportunity now to give back and be a master connector in that way.
Yeah, that speaks volumes. Also, building your rapport. Actually, my accountability partner is a marketing director, but she literally says the same thing. She's like, she looks at her her social media connections, and one of her biggest things that she always says is that do a little Antoinette Minor plug. She talks about how at the end of the day, if you're trying to get whatever viral or make it to the next level in your career, you need to be talking to people. At the end of the day, the analytics, the algorithms are always going to change. So yes, no, I truly believe, yes, marketing is important and eventually you get to that point. But, and then, you know, if you decide to hire and grow and make more, have more capital, you know, have RW kind of hit more of like fast company, you might get one social media director, but at the end of the day, that's really, the relationships are what matter. Like that's all that there is. And I think folks keep getting confused, especially with younger women or women trying to build a brand. At the end of the day, you still have to put in the extra work. And surprisingly, like, when you put in the work, people are so nice. Like I think, you know, that's like the quote unquote imposter syndrome. But going in front of a computer, the only reason why you should be in front of a computer is to, one, find someone on LinkedIn or whatever group you are and say, hey, can we get a cup of coffee? Hey, can I interview on a podcast? That should be the only form. Your social media should be that. It shouldn't be, you know, I got to make sure that I get this many likes, because at the end of the day, nobody cares if you're not making a profit or money. So, I mean, right. Yeah, you can manifest all you want, but at the end of the day, you know, we need more women. We need more women of color. We need more Black women making more money so we can make grocery stores, so we can do more things. That's like, yes, maybe I mean, Beyonce has said it correctly. Like you got to get the money, you know? Oh my goodness. Anyways, so we're just be the money. That's what Arlen always says. Arlen Hamilton. Yeah. She's always saying, be the money. And I never understood what that meant. I was like, what the heck does she mean, be the money? But it's like, oh yeah, if you are the money, then you make the executive decisions, just like what you're doing with your business. So, yeah. Okay, so this is our last couple of rapid fire questions. I like to ask people, are you a podcast listener? You frequent the
I
podcast
am.
space? Okay, so
I am.
currently what podcast is in your queue?
Super Soul Conversations by Oprah.
Oh, of course.
That's a whole different journey. But yeah, Super Soul Conversations.
Yeah, but the older I get, the more I respect Oprah. When you're young, when I was younger, I didn't really get it. I was just like, oh, these moms they just really like Oprah. That's really great. But yes,
Yeah.
if once you reach that type of level or that money, she is going to help your soul. So
yeah. It's all about growth.
Yeah. A book, like what is the book that you typically go back and reread or go back and quote?
48 Laws of Power. So I've read that book 3 times.
Yes. Yes. I just finished that book, and I think that should be like a woman's guide. It is a game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
I'll make sure I put that.
I love it.
Yeah. I'll make sure I put that on the show notes. That's Robert Greene, all of his books, in terms of trying to get to mastery. And I would argue that, Robert Greene also wrote a book about 50 Cent, which is crazy. But he takes really good pieces from people that are very well skilled and well trained and breaks it down for everyone, because we all can achieve that. So yeah, love it. Okay. And then last thing, what's like one health product that you cannot live without?
Health product that I cannot live without. I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound a little weird. Aloe juice. So I actually drink aloe juice, and it has tremendously helped my skin, and I have eczema, and it has helped kind of from the inside out. So I'm feeling very good. I have gallons and gallons of aloe juice in my refrigerator, but that's one I can't live without.
Oh, that is awesome. I have an aloe branch right now that I'm looking at in my kitchen, and I put in my hair, so maybe I should try to squeeze some of it in the water. Do you know the benefits of it for water?
So what I have read and kind of what I experienced, definitely a couple. Definitely you get a kind of a different, you get these skin benefits. So I feel like I have a glow. I wear way less makeup now. You get less dryness. You're more hydrated. If you've got some GI digestive issues, definitely it will act as a natural way to get things moving. It actually is supposed to help with weight loss. Now, I'm not saying it does, but if you drink it before your meal, I think it kind of acts in the same way as drinking, 8 ounces of water before a meal. But you start to feel fullness a lot faster. And at the end of the day, it kind of tastes weird at first. But it is really, really good just in general for even your lips. So I wear a lot of lipstick because I love lip colors. And my lips aren't as dry when I wear my Ruby Rouge matte lipsticks now. So I attribute it all to my allergies because I don't use any other products.
Well, you got to do what you got to do. Dr. Shante, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Absolutely. It was tons of fun. And now I should put Money and Flow on my podcast list so I can make sure that after I listen to my soul session, I can get some money to.
There we go. That's the goal. So where can we find you on the interwebs?
Oh, you can find me everywhere, literally. Of course, I'm on every social media outlet. You can either find me at RW Capital Partners, so that's rwcapitalpartners.com. RW Capital is our handle on all social media platforms, or if you're looking to personally connect with me and just chat up about, aloe juice and Beyonce, I'm Beautiful Square.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much.